Folks, are you tired of people telling you your band is too darn loud when you're just trying to practice in your house or garage? Well, if you live in Austin, I have the solution for you. That's Space Rehearsal and Recording. Space is a state-of-the-art affordable venue for rehearsal and recording, located just a few short miles south of downtown Austin. They have 31 spacious rooms, great PAs, fantastic courteous staff. They have everything you need to get your artistic business together at Space. Find them at 512-448-9518 or go to spaceatx.com and start playing as loud as you want in Space Rehearsal and Recording. Let's get down. Hey gang, are you new to this podcast? Have you subscribed on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts and realized that you can only access the 20 most recent shows on these platforms? Do you, my friend, want to binge on How Did I Get Here? Well, check out our archives that are available on the Podbean app. If you follow us on the Podbean app, we have every single show ever released on that platform. You'll also get all of your favorite shows like Fresh Air, WTF with Mark Maron, ID10T, the Michelle Obama podcast. All podcasts available there, and you can also access over 1,000 How Did I Get Here episodes. So, download the Podbean app from your app store and start listening today. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here is your host,
All right. Hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys are all having a good week, whatever it is you're doing this week. I'm probably having a good week. I'm doing this a few days before this comes out because I'm heading out to Houston after rehearsal on Wednesday to hang out with my grandma and my aunt Olga. And, my grandma's going to be 98 in a couple weeks. I like to get out there and see her when I can. I have a gig there on Thursday night, and I'll just drive home after the gig. But I'll spend Wednesday night with them and Thursday during the day hanging out. Good times with the family. Always good to do that. Hey, things are opening back up, and people are going out to shows and shows are happening. How are you doing with that? Are you getting out there? I've noticed that there haven't been a lot of people at the shows, but there have been people. People are getting out. People are starting to play. I got Skyrockets doing this private show on Thursday at this tennis court, but that'll be our fourth or fifth public show or, show in front of people in the last couple of months. So I'm getting out there and doing it. I'm actually playing a show with my band because I've been dropping singles, which you can find at Bandcamp, johnnygoudie.bandcamp.com. But I'm doing a show on Friday, June 25th with the Belle Sounds at 310 ACL Live. I'm really excited to do this show. I love the Belle Sounds. I love playing at 310, and I'm really excited to get out and play all this new music for people. I have a song called Sun, Earth, Moon, which is available now on johnnygoudie.bandcamp.com, and I have another song called Marigolds dropping at the end of this month. So, I'm excited, dropping music, going to play a show. You can get these tickets for our show at 310 on Friday, June 25th at 310austin.com. That's the number 3, the word 10, austin.com. All right, we'll be playing with the Belle Sounds, who I love. They've been dropping singles all year amidst this insane pandemic, but I am glad things are opening up. Are you vaccinated? Have you gotten vaccinated? Isn't it a different feeling once you've gotten vaccinated? You kind of cruise around. I mean, I still wear my mask when I follow all the rules. I social distance. I do all that stuff, but it feels good. I've been having a couple people over. This week I had El Combo Oscuro over. One guy from the band, just one person at a time. Still, easing into it. Still doing a lot of Zoom conversations, which today's show is a Zoom conversation with a fantastic songwriter named Israel Nash. He's based out of here in Austin now. He actually lives out in Dripping Springs, but he has a brand new record he put out called Topaz, which is available now wherever it is you stream and download your jams. Gorgeous, gorgeous record. Gorgeous record. He did some of it himself in his new home studio. You can find him at israelnash.com. Yeah, this record features some horns and stuff, but I heard about Israel Nash, I think, from my friend Jen LeDuc last year when I was asking people, who should I get on the show? I'm pretty sure that she suggested Israel Nash. A couple of people have. Anyway, I got out and listened to his stuff, and I was blown away. I actually found this record called Across the Water live in Europe, which came out last year. That's fucking great. Check out this album Topaz, then I suggest you check out Across the Water live in Europe. Came out last year in 2020. All of his stuff's available on vinyl as well. If you're a vinyl person, go to israelnash.com for all of your Israel Nash needs. We have a great conversation, man. He's got a master's in political science. We talk about politics. We talk about songwriting. Shows me some guitars. We talk about some guitars. He's a cool dude, man. I really, really enjoy getting to know Israel Nash, and I'm sure you will too. So, without further ado, please enjoy our conversation. Let's get down.
It's not like sunny out here, you know, it's just kind of like bummer, you know.
Yeah. You get that you're from the Northeast, right? Are you from the Northeast? No, you're not. You live there though.
Yeah, I was there for 7 years and from Missouri originally, but yeah.
You get like those, like in Boston and stuff, the days get really short up there, and I know that people end up getting depressed because they're all locked up in their houses and
yeah, I mean it's dark at 5 o'clock. You know, there. So yeah, you feel those vibes, and we got out, you know, because we always had winters. Now we, you know, had one.
Yeah, for a couple of days, it was it was pretty bad.
Yeah, how was it for you?
I lost power pretty early on, and made it out by like on Sunday night of that thing. I lost power, and then like Tuesday afternoon, I headed to a friend's house that had power.
Yeah, we had 4 days with no power, and yeah, and our house is an older home that we remodeled when we got it, so insulation's pretty old too. So it was like, you know, blankets on the like around. So we just had our fireplace, and I was like chopping wood. We had like limbs just falling down.
Oh,
I mean, it
man.
looked like trimmed trees almost, but it was just like all limbs everywhere. So I had like the low hanging fruit, so limbs that were already down. So I would just get the chainsaw and cut firewood, and yeah, our pipes froze, and we have like well collection, you know, out in the country, pretty much at the will of nature at that point, you know. So yeah. Then it was just like one day the sun came out.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that was kind of really when that happened. It was like the next chapter. It was kind of like we got a vaccine, like our first vaccine, like a week later. So it was just kind of that was the beginning of a new like spring, winter behind, future ahead. And yeah, that's kind of where we're now, I guess. So.
How are you doing, like, with releasing a record and not, like, having spent a year not touring, and, like, how is all that sitting? Because it seems like you spent a pretty busy decade.
Yeah, I mean, well, so doing a record here, I mean, I was at a point that, you know, I had this Topaz, and then I had finished another album. Right, I was getting ready to finish up a few mixes right before the pandemic on the second album, so I had like 2 albums. So I ultimately was like, well, you know, I want to get something out at least. I don't, you know, it's not the best time where everyone's releasing a bunch of records, but you know, I don't want to sit on this stuff for that long. So
right,
it went really well. I mean, it was obviously different without shows. I mean, it doesn't feel like as busy. There's a lot of, you know, there's magic to the fabric of all that stuff. It's how art is informed, is really people coming together. You know, I mean, I think you feel it this year with like movies and all kinds of other things that are sort of artistic mediums that, hey, did you see that movie? Oh man, I saw that. Oh, it was, you know,
right. There's
just conversational things that inform art and turn other people onto it. Is really a big deal. I mean, I know, like, obviously the internet is a big deal, but man, that old word of mouth, people talking about the things they like is a big deal, and just that happening in that kind of way. So that was different, but I mean, I was able to, I spent a lot of time talking to radios and
Yeah.
views that I would normally be passing through. You know, I just did those on Zoom, did so many videos, kind of, you know, definitely tired of like recording videos and
Yeah.
making audio. You know, it was like a weird time where it's like I'm used to, you know, having like a little bit of help when I just naturally just like, okay, we got this little thing coming, you know, and it was this time where it was like doing it all on your own, which I also know how to do, but like setting up and breaking down and everything so many times on your own, like, you know, just being in the main room and being like, I'm gonna even just like working on music, like I'm gonna make this drum track, awesome. Get back in the control room, shit, kick mic wasn't on, you know, just things where you just have someone in there to be like, yeah, cool, level's good, you know, or it was, I think that creatively that got tiring to like create like that. When you're just like, oh man, I love playing a bunch of instruments, you know, it's fun. Man, I also like having a day-to-day guy that plays drums, bass, my guy, you know, that's just like, cool. This groove that I've been trying to do for like 2 days straight and settled on, you just did it in like 5 minutes. Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it's awesome to play with people and, you know, all that stuff that happens in that collective of musicianship and friendship and travels and journeys and stories. And, you know, it's the thing of life.
Yeah. Yeah. What all did you play on Topaz?
I ended up playing something. I mean, I played every instrument
Okay.
at some point.
Okay.
I had like the way that we did that, you know, was like, I had like 3 basic sessions, which was just getting like, we did drums, bass. I wanted piano, like as a basic track. And then I would do some stuff. And then, you know, Adrian had put on a couple tracks like while we were doing stuff. But then the way I kind of wanted to shape that album was like all the bells and whistles and overdubs and vocals and harmonies, and was doing it on my own and just sitting in here, you know, and working late, and just like in a real organic fashion. I think like the way I've made records before, we're kind of like getting everyone together and kind of ascending, being there for a couple of weeks, you know, 10, 14 days, making an album that I'd, you know, I'd written the songs. Here we go. And then 6 weeks later, mix, you know, and master after that. And then it's going to come out in 6 months. You know, that was kind of how it was loaded. And
Right.
I didn't know it, but, you know, building this studio was like, I always see how it continues to change the process and opportunities and what I can do. So this was a time of realizing like, man, I got this studio. I don't have to make a record every 2 years, or it doesn't always have to be this big, you know, movement of people and schedules, that it can just be kind of laid back and, call a couple of guys from Austin to come out for a few days, and they leave by 9 o'clock, and I'll work on stuff till 4 a.m, maybe, you know, whatever. So it just kind of changed like that, I don't want to say like seriousness or reverence or anything, but it just made it more casual, I think, which I think is more natural anyway, just making a record a little bit over time rather than, okay, here it goes, you know,
Right.
letting it breathe is nice, you know, that you find counter melodies months later, you know, and you know, it's good to have a window of knowing when you're going to complete something maybe, but ultimately I kind of got out of that idea of having a cycle of records and just wanted to make a bunch of records, and I can't, you know, make a certain albums I can make easier than others financially and stuff. So it's like, you know, I can do kind of like that Topaz method where it was done over time, so it felt like it was nothing, you know.
Yeah.
And then make a big record or something, or make a collaborative record, or make a cover album. You know, it's just, I really am about having as much material as I can in the vault, for whatever, it's just my currency and it's my happiness. It's utilizing my place,
Yeah.
my things, like everything. It's like
Yeah.
what the world, what connects with a person is a song, and what makes up albums. It's all of it. So but I figured a couple of years ago, the more I had of that, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. What brought you to Texas? Like, what brought you down here?
Well, like whenever I moved from Missouri, like I graduated college there, and my wife and I, it was between New York and Austin, and she really wanted to do New York, and I mean I wasn't against it,
Yeah.
So we just moved to New York City, and we're there for 7 years, and it's where I met a lot of people I still play with and work with. But we were just at a place where at that time I didn't have U.S. representation yet, but I had an album out in Europe, and I started to get fans in Europe.
Uh-huh.
And my wife and I were just kind of at a point where we're ready to start a family, buy a place, and just kind of were thinking about the next chapters. And we're kind of like, well, let's go check out Austin again. But we knew we wanted to have space and live in the country, and kind of had a lot of plans about that, building a studio and
Right.
place just to build over time and have a family. And we sold land. My parents they bought a couple acres from us. So, and my wife's parents live on the land part-time, half the year. So we kind of turned into this family compound and had a kid. So kind of all those things were just motivators to get to Texas, to get to Austin. It was a great music scene. It was a place where you could buy a place at that time.
Yeah.
And live in the country and have all these things we wanted, do the studio. And that's just kind of exactly what we did. So, and like speaking earlier, we had like winters, Midwest winters to East Coast winters. We were ready to kind of like not have that,
Yeah.
and to have more outside more often. And that's a big part of it, is being out here and having doors open and just, being lost in the hill country. It's kind of where it's how I write songs, is kind of being isolated and find that space. And it's all out here to me, I feel really, it's that cool, the hill country is, it can feel really spacious, and open, and you can do 30 miles, but you can also feel this incredible isolation about it too. So it's that cool duality that just gets me, it never gets old. It's like anytime I catch, because we have great views here. We have really high elevation where we're at. And so, I mean, you just see in the corner of your eye, just spanning hills and rolling hills, and it means something. It doesn't get old, so.
Yeah, I can see that. I love it out there. It's gorgeous. But I also like living in town. It's funny because there's a different sort of, like, I'm a songwriter, musician as well. I get chaos keeps me going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think I've struggled with that for sure this year because of the distance and because of just where we're at, that it's not normal a year for me is going to a bunch of cities. And so it was always kind of about that duality too. Right. That wasn't just like, oh, I want to be isolated all the time. It's like, I wanted to do each. I love the cities. I want to live in the country. But yeah, I was I've been complaining where it's like, I miss that element of just like being with my pals, that kind of that chaos. Cause we don't get it out here. It's,
Right.
It's a little more planned, organized. It's not like, it's and we've kind of made these lives by design that the master plan has not allowed us for our design to fit so nicely,
Right.
So yeah, I didn't want to be isolated like that. I like the balance, and it's it's like amazing to have a space and to have stuff and to still be able to create. But I also kind of knew that I'm pretty good at kind of seeing, like, just reflecting, kind of having that inner thought of like, hey, this is a different time. I'm probably not going to personally turn out the songs like I did before. To me, I've been feeling that movement in life is really the spice of the song. Not necessarily that, oh man, this crazy story happened to me on the road, and so I wrote this song. But it's just the spice of life, the movement, the longing. When I'm gone for a month, I deeply miss my family.
Yeah,
I don't deeply miss them right now because I'm around them. I don't take it for granted, but I just mean that you don't have the yin and the yang as much, and it's those spaces to me that a lot of songs come from. So I started to feel that changing a little bit with the optimism in the last month, but it's still been slower than I even thought.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't expect it to be like on, but it's like we've got some show offers that we're starting to book, but that's still like being kind of figured out. It's like,
right.
Okay, it's easy to play an Austin show. It's easy to play some regional Texas shows. But you get an offer outside, and it's like, okay, that's a good offer, but how do we round it out with some other shit? What?
Right.
Just out right now. So we're seeing stuff slowly come in, which is nice. Believe me, it's nice. It's like, oh, cool, an opportunity to work again and do this. But it's slower than I thought. So I think it's going to be this sort of these regional and slower vibe for a while.
Have you done? Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
Like shows will still happen. I mean, we're gonna have. Looks like we'll have an Austin show in June.
Oh, great!
Like a full capacity thing.
Right.
Still, no one knows what that's gonna look like.
Right.
I think it's just realizing that I have to be patient with that. It's like, I thought my expectations had been lower, but I have to lower them just a little bit more still.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm kind of looking at it right now.
Yeah. How much were you touring per year? Like, were you playing like 150 shows a year before 2020?
Yeah, maybe like 125, 150 over maybe like 14.
Okay.
Hidden. I mean, I'd be hidden, Europe 4 times, that year, last year in 2019, and then States both sides, and festival season. So busy enough that it definitely feels gone, like that whole part of not just like getting on a plane or playing shows, but just that whole part of your life, just being at a restaurant that you were at a year ago in Paris and having a beer with a buddy. I don't know, it's just all these little nuances that are just part of my life, traveling and being familiar with a lot of cities, feeling very comfortable in a lot of places.
Yeah. And I know I might have mentioned it before, but I just want to make sure this record is really fucking great. You did a really, really great job doing it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It was a blast doing that.
Yeah. And it's it really moves through a lot of different things that we've been experiencing over the last few years.
Yes.
From divisions to shootings to... Is this, as a writer and being a parent, do those things inform your view on all that stuff?
I mean, I guess I don't know if I think about my daughter directly, but I guess as a parent, how that might shape you and change your core. I guess I come from that. Like, I think Bob Dylan had this like quote that was like something like like I write when I'm sick. There's a bigger sense in there, but
right.
The notion of writing comes from this place. And I think that, especially during this this time. There were just a lot of last few years, and there were just a lot of those spaces that just bother me. Like the shooting was, in Sutherland was just felt so close. Just
Yeah.
And it's been something that I've written about before. All these issues I've kind of written about a little bit, but there were just kind of there might be like one or two songs on an album. This was like a little more collection of that. And not that it's like a protest album, but it was just kind of talking about the way I've seen some things and what I don't like about it, And so, the division stuff, it's like, man, it's like some of these words feel weak. Like we've been talking about that for a while. Like, there's a lot of division in America. But it's just really true. Some failure to look at, us as Americans and just the politicization of almost everything, like the speed of the news cycle.
Yeah.
Have to be. You don't necessarily forget, but like when you really think about it, like Bill, and you're just like, whoa, like the Capitol riots? What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? How is that politicized? Like, I don't know. It's just when you just start to see that level of politicization, and I see it coming from one side way more than another. And I just miss, I guess one thing I get disappointed too about in another life, I have a graduate degree in political science and political philosophy. So there's been like that interest, I guess, it was kind of like, well, I went to grad school because I was like, well, I don't want to get a real job. What am I going to, I'm still playing music.
Right. Right.
It was like, yeah, I like philosophy and the political science has been good to me. So I just did that and moved to New York right after. It's kind of, but no, what bothers me is just like, I really believe that a good democracy requires ideas and on both sides and some compromises of those ideas for growth. And sadly, there are ideas that exist in the Republican side, but they've been encapsulated to be these like there's legitimate stuff that there's still conservative ideas that are legitimate that are not nasty or ugly or disgusting.
Right.
And I think that's what bothers me is it's like, I think people compared it to like, like the team sports or something, like jumping the guy that's got the Mets jersey on or something, just nuts. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. And I feel like the pandemic obviously has been a bizarre time to gauge and understand people's individual emotions and how that reflects politics. I mean, we just had like the biggest, election democracy turnout of all time. I mean, no doubt the pandemic led to that, how did that affect how people think and the clarity of thought and, how did Trump damage that? How was it damaged before? I mean, a lot of crazy, weird stuff has been going on since the 80s, like Republican Party and the growth of, certain voices and certain ideas that were dog whistles or ways to, get voters, I guess, that have kind of lost the whistle parts, and now it just feels like a dying, like populist, I read it somewhere. It was interesting where it was like the Republicans are now, rather than having a party that voters choose, they're just choosing their voters. That's
interesting. Yeah.
So that was a good point, where it's like, well, what do they believe? Like, let's go there. That's where we have some votes still. But you can't hold on to that. I mean, that's just not a strategy. And when you see like America, I just think it's really, it wasn't until this year that I even like watched the news again, or where I would like see commercials. And it's like, I love, the representation of America in commercials, and, it's black people, it's white people, it's brown people. In, there's something about corporate America and bigger America that sees that, even if it's not a political area, that it's just a bottom line area, that this is what the people are. This is just honestly,
Yeah.
and we've got to do things for the people that are here,
Right.
That's, they're not putting their feet into big politics. They're just the reality of business. And I don't know. So, and, state of Texas, like what's, man, people don't talk about it enough in the national way, but how close Biden got in Texas and
Yeah.
the changing traffic of Texas, that less than 10 years that the Latino folks will be the majority.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, yeah, let's deal with some reality changing. I know, it just seems nuts. But maybe it's actually just what people do, right?
Right. But our democracy, as a political science guy, our specific democracy is supposed to live and breathe and evolve as evolution calls. That's why we have amendments to our Constitution. That's why,
Yeah.
That's why we have a new. What's that?
Changes. It grows.
Yeah.
Not just, it's inevitable growth. And then the founding fathers knew that. It's easy to think about, oh, well, we don't think like we did last time, like we did 100 years ago. But it's just like there's another simple, inevitable growth. And Biden was talking about that in the address, that there's just like a need for, like this technological need to grow. There's like he was talking about, over 100 years ago, we came up with this radical idea of public schooling, but now it's not so radical. Everyone does it, and they're
Right.
doing more. Doing more. That's why we have to extend it. It's not a radical idea. It's just like we were setting some pretty great standards that have the world has caught up on many things. So that's part of that need for that growth too. Not just to solve inequalities, but that it's inevitable to have a country that it can compete in a global world that is changing. The economy has changed drastically in the 70s.
Yeah.
It's going to continue to do that. And, how do you promote that? I guess that's the thing about dividing lines, like down in the country, these ideas like, well, I think one way to promote that is awareness and knowledge, and let people think, what should we do, rather than telling people lies and eating something else, that's nuts. I just wish we could live in a political realm where it was more about a method of people feeling like they had information and how to store it. It wasn't, oh, well, that's a left source, or, well, I did my research. I wish there could just be some level of reality and acceptance of truths to make good decisions, because that's how every one of us wants to plan for our future, to base it on some information that we can have, if we can have some. I just, so that's sad.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go back. Where were you born?
I was born in Aurora, Missouri.
Okay. Born and raised in Missouri. What did your parents do?
Well, my dad was a Baptist minister, and my mom was a marketing lady. But my mom was also a musician, a songwriter in the 70s, and that's kind of how I stumbled onto guitar. Was because I had a super musical family on both sides.
Oh.
And like my aunt was this like young, kind of like prodigious child player, pianist. And so I took piano lessons from her for a couple of years, like starting when I was like 8 years old. And by the time I was 10, my uncle on the other side was a cool guy. It was like, my mom's brother, he was, a single guy, had this ranch, and it was like he was like a wheeler and dealer guy, as my mom would say. He would, you know, he'd have a buddy that was hurting for some money, he would just have like weird things, like a dune buggy one day would be there. Bullshit. And he would play guitar. He had a bunch of guitars, and he would play like Johnny Be Good, you know. And I could just like watch him play that. I was just like, oh. So I was just begging my mom to quit piano lessons and start guitar lessons. And but my mom had this guitar in her closet, this classical nylon string guitar, and like an old chord book, like this an old binder with old folk songs in it. And it was like missing a string, and I just started playing that guitar and played, you know, learned a few chords and everything, and they were happy with me. Kind of had the blessing to go to the guitar side.
Yeah.
And I mean, I started writing songs so soon after that, you know, like I didn't want to be I didn't know what I wanted really. I just knew that I really loved music at a young age, and I was just like wanting to play. I was a good singer. And I just wanted to play like music, and guitar seemed cool, and my uncle seemed cool, and rock and roll was cool. My dad was a minister, but you know, he had a pretty strong like rock and roll collection, you know, and just a big fan of, you know, 60s and 70s classic rock. So I mean, that was his.
What kind of stuff? What kind of CCR? What kind of stuff were you learning then?
Like listening to or
listening to? Yeah. Like, what was inspiring you to make music?
The Stones and the Beatles were always big at an early age. My dad wasn't like a super fan, but he had great taste, you know, where it's like listening to like the golden era of, you know, recorded music, rock and roll, where it's just like, oh, this is Elton John. I mean, this is a cool song. Don't tell your mom that this is the bitch is back. You know? Just so that was what's cool about my dad. It's really played. So he kind of introduced me on that side, and my mom was more of like an instrument and kind of creative and art side. But CCR was a big one. That's my dad's favorite band, and it's one of mine.
Yeah,
you know. I mean, Cosmos Factory has 8 singles.
Yeah.
I think the only other record I think of that has that many singles of a record that I also love is like Born in the USA or something, where it just has unbelievable. That record's an incredible album. And I think there's a lot of that in my. I don't think I get a lot of comparisons to CCR.
No,
but there's a lot of that kind of instrumentation. You know, they had that. There's a Southern rock thing, but they're from that Bakersfield.
Right.
You know what I mean? Really, so they've always been a big influence. Just, I think, again, those songs, those were just like quintessential. Just like the forms of those songs were just brilliant. I mean, brilliant bridges. I mean, a bridge that can be a song almost in its own at times. Right. You know, so, that's cool.
So did you like, did the dream take hold? Like, were you on a quest to be?
Yeah. I mean, by the time I was 14, you know, I'd been writing some songs, having a band. It's like, this is it, you know? And that was at that time that, that Beatles anthology came out on ABC.
Yeah.
A really cool thing, you know? And, I don't know. It was a big deal to me. I guess it was a really big deal when I think about it. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think you could. It's weird how you can't do things like that anymore. That wouldn't be as a big deal. You know, it'd be this Hulu exclusive.
Right.
You know, back those days when like 70 million people would watch an episode of something, like unifying in that.
Like a shared cultural experience. Like the Beatles on Sullivan just can't happen ever again. or at least
Yeah.
in the world we live in now, it can't.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And does that lead to some of that division? Maybe. But I don't think it's like something to chase. It's just the inevitability of space, more options, and fewer, or I guess more institutions rather than here's the 4 institutions of getting your records or your thing. It's all that stuff has grown, so inevitably that obviously changes.
Well, it's funny also because then at that time, there was a lot you kind of had to go through to get your stuff, especially if you lived in a remote area, which it sounds like you kind of did. If you wanted to go to like the record store, like you might have had a Sam Goudie or like a Walmart, but they didn't have all the stuff.
No. You'd have to go to like Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, but you'd have to go like on a quest to go find this thing. It's not like someone says something to you, you look it up on your phone, and within, 11 seconds, that need is satiated.
Yeah, and I think that people have learned how to sate that need by the internet, but the internet has not solved the show experience.
No.
And I can't touch it. I mean, and I find that's kind of interesting to me because it's like that all these things that we're talking about, that journey is an experience. It's a physical motion. There's something that even in that journey has more stories, and again creates that spice. And at least it's good to know that that the internet can't take that away from shows, because people have that experience where, I got this record, I'm so stoked to go see the show. I'm going out with my buddies. We're going to meet earlier and grab a bite, beers, and get some awesome tacos, and but that's cool that music still has that power in that regard. I'm glad I never thought about it like that, but it's like no one said like, oh man, this live stream changed my life. Like they say that at live shows, and I've been fortunate enough to hear it a few times, and and that's the stuff I miss too. Just feeling that. To me, this working and making a living and all that stuff is important and critical to do this, but for me, things have to be bigger. They have to have like purpose. That kind of person, and I just miss being in that, and I guess sharing that space with people in their lives, and I've been able to do that. Like last night, I had this VIP like live stream thing after this show, and I talked to a lady whose husband had recently passed away, and she was a younger woman in her 40s.
Yeah.
She had been touched by a song of mine off Silver Season called "The Widow" song, and it was just, that's the kind of stuff I just mean, like real, not that I did anything or I've made anything better, but just real human activity through something bigger than us, and a place to maybe find there's just little touches of peace that make you just feel better. It's that simple. Feel a little better.
Yeah. There is that kind of thing, especially as I listen mostly to Topaz. But I do have to tell you, man, that Across the Water live album, that is fucking great.
Thank you. That was awesome to make, because we recorded everything.
That's awesome.
Everything in Europe. It was just like, so it's cool I had never done that. It was just that, it was also easy because we had like running our own like split and digital splits. So it was just as easy as just tracks. I think I'm going to do that more often because, man, it was so great. And then you just remember those shows even more vividly too.
Yeah.
Like the nuance of again, I said that? An idiot I am. And it's cool. It's cool to go through all those tracks too. It's like, it's weird how the band's really, really damn good when you've been playing on the road, playing that many shows.
Yeah.
But it's just like takes where you're like, you can't really say like why this take is better, but everyone just kind of agrees like, yeah, that one grooves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When it's like, I'm sure, man, I would be surprised. you work with a good band, and I work with a good. It's like great band, professionals. So it's like even that take that maybe wasn't the greatest. Like maybe no one would have heard that in the end if we just would have went with that one. But there's something.
Yeah.
That you feel, and it's you can't even. Same way about writing songs. Like I can describe a lot of reasons about how I wrote a song, but there are elements of it that is just divine or something. It's just
it's
like,
especially with the band. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Like a syncopated thing. Like, why did I go up on? I don't even know. Little nuances where it's just like no thought. It's like blinking an eye.
Right. And that's like when you get a group of people like that playing, and you can capture the magic. Like the moment that the magic happens, you know what I mean? I think that's probably what attracts people like you and me to records that were made when there was a bunch of people in a room having to get it right all together at once, where you're capturing magic instead of trying to carve out some kind of perfection, and auto-tuning stuff and fucking moving kick drum things and shit.
Yeah, where it's just, did it feel good? Use your ears. I mean, obviously some of those processes are influenced by the drummer and the bass player, right?
Yeah.
Drummer likes it. Everyone else likes it. And, there's a beautiful process there. 'Cause it's like, as something else happens in the room too, that, I can have a lot of ideas, and I generally give, a pretty good outline of things, ballparks, ideas that I'm wanting. I might have a melody line, a guitar line, a bass line or a bass feels, certain note selection ideas, but it's an outline. It's like there's a reason those guys are here, because if I could play his drums as well as Ed, or bass as well as I would just do it myself. I want to see what they feel and where their head could go, because I can also know that I can kind of naturally I'll have some walls, and it's like it's nice to get those kind of broken out a bit. And I always say that, creativity in that room becomes this contagious kind of thing where it's like, where it's just one inspires another, where it's like, wait, do that part again? Oh, that's cool. What if I did this?
Right.
Stuff where it's just in the moments, it's not really thought about.
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's another thing that we signed up for is in the room, people and doing that, and
making and feeling the magic. Yeah,
yeah, and I wanted to do it more. And I guess I think this is going to be a season to be able to do that a little bit more. It's just been like, we did this live stream, and it was the first time I had the band in here, and everyone had their second shot at that time, but man, it was just like a lot of work because, so there was like, the video guy did not have a vaccine, but he got a test. It was just like a lot of work, even in that time, just to even among, progressives or whatever, like everyone's just been living a little bit differently, like I kind of had a thing for myself of like, cool, I've got a vaccine. Like I'm ready to do whatever the world is. But then there's some people that's like, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
Thing. I'm not going to argue with people or tell them what they should do. It just felt, it was a little tough just to kind of like, hey, are you cool with this thing? Are you cool? Hey, the CDC says this. Are you cool with that? I mean, like,
right.
No, I'm not trying to pander to everyone, but I just want like everyone to feel comfortable and not like do something that, people thought you weren't taken care of. So,
right.
It hasn't been as easy because I guess, I mean, it could be easy if everyone just wore a mask, but I'd rather just have this place of like, everyone here is vaccine or whatever. This is safe to be in here. Let's just make music, I want to be at that place.
Yeah. I'm in a band with like 7 people, and we've been active in doing stuff, but there's a thing where now that everyone's gotten their second vaccine, or one guy hasn't, there was the talk of, well, now that we can we not wear these masks at rehearsal anymore? Because it's fucking hard to sing through those things, man. You sound like shit. Yeah,
I mean, do you finding it that some people just have
some people just don't? Like some people are like, man, I think we should just continue to wear the mask when we're in this little room, and you got to respect that.
Exactly, and that's the difference. It's like we're respect. I want to respect everyone's opinion because during this whole time I wanted people to respect my opinion before this, and we were pretty super isolated. Partially just because it was easy. We live out in the country. So it's like, I'm not working out there.
Right.
No, we'll just stay here,
Yeah.
But, I always wanted people to appreciate our choices and equally wanted to always tell people, like, if you have a higher standard, let me know.
Yeah.
I just went, cool. So I get it. But, yeah, I'm not really, I don't want to do that. It's just like I kind of had that idea of just like, tell me when it's cool, like everything's cool.
Well, the thing is, too, is we're all getting vaccinated, and I've started going. I went to like 2 shows, not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. So I was just fucking excited, man. I hit my 2 weeks after I'd got my second vaccination, and I was like, man, I want to go and see people play music. And both shows were outside, but they were really lightly attended.
Yeah, that's what the vibe I've gotten, where you just kind of think, well, if 40% of Texans have their vaccine, I would just expect there to be like some more people. We went to the movie theater for the first time a couple weeks ago, and we've been vaccinated since like March 15th fully.
Yeah.
So we went for the first time, and it was like it was like a new movie on a Saturday, and it was like 2 other people in the theater, and my dad's been vaccinated since February fully because he like works for he does volunteer chaplain for the fire department here.
Okay.
And they got their rounds, and he's like, I wouldn't step in a movie theater. It's just like this.
Sure.
Okay, like, yeah, whatever. Okay, everyone's different still. So I mean, I think obviously that's people working through just their own opinions, public opinion.
Yeah.
And it kind of maybe the disservice that we've had from a stronger messaging, or a lot of people are smart enough to realize that the CDC's standards are made to be high.
Right.
That doesn't mean that everyone should not follow them. It's just
right.
They want to call that lying or something. Oh, right. It's just like the milk saying it's going to expire in a week. It might not be expired. It might last another week. Like, but if everyone acts like that, that's what.
Right.
Which I think maybe some of the levels of politicization of the whole pandemic and things have affected even kind of those public opinions. Like, what is the thing to do? Like, I guess in my opinion, I just kind of felt like historically a vaccine means cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Live. But that's interesting to hear you say that. I think it's just been a little. I thought it would be a little faster, a little easier to do some of these things, and we'll just experience it. Fan confidence, and what are people going to? We'll just. I guess we'll have to see and experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff. Speaking of the politicization of the virus, my dad hasn't spoken to me since last April 2020, because he told me that I shouldn't be listening to scientists, that I should be listening to Joel Osteen, the preacher, about what to do in this time with the virus, and literally never doesn't plan on speaking to me ever again. And it's just interesting what sort of he also is one of the people that really idolized Trump, and it was like a thing where he was and continues to be, from what I hear from my brothers and sisters, continues to sort of be in your face and confrontational about it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think that's the difference where it's maybe I don't agree with my friend's practice with the mask when he's fully vaccinated, but I'm not going to do anything bad about it. It's
right.
Let's everyone should feel safe.
Yeah.
But it feels like the other side of things is to be like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's just so abrasive, and it's weird to see that from your father, I guess. And I guess I'm blessed that my dad was a pastor,
Uh-oh.
But in the last 20 years, 15 years, he became a non-denominational chaplain for the hospital system, which was without the politics of church.
Right.
And that dropped more about people in need.
Right.
And I think it was a much better service for him. But I guess I'm really blessed in the fact that despite my history, some of my upbringing, that my parents I have friends that just have a lot more of this kind of stuff in their lives, and I don't like. My parents are big about community, are big about. They might not agree with some things that I think are kind of like, oh, come on, but they would help anyone.
Yeah.
They've never had hate or.
Yeah. Well, they're Christians.
Yeah. And I guess I've seen a lot of the other side of that, and I know why people feel like that. So
Yeah.
because it's like that most people they know are not trying to be helpful in their community or give. It's just like acting like assholes and telling you why you're an idiot or something.
Right. Right.
Evil when they're talking about, like, not realizing how much of a bad person they sound like when they say.
So what do they think of the album?
My parents?
Yeah.
They love the horns.
I love the horns too, man.
They loved that it was different, a little different.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are just so super supportive. I think my mom, she'll buy the limited or whatever. She's like,
Yeah.
well, always. I bought one. Did you see it? Mine, took everyone else's.
That's awesome.
She's really, she's fun, and it's been cool to live out in a small town. I mean, Dripping Springs is growing, but it's still pretty small in that kind of community sense. And people know me and they know my dad. But my dad, goes by, my last name is Gripka. My middle name. So lately there's been like more and more people realizing that that's my dad, like that we're related. And, cause my dad's just like, it's been really cool to see this over the years that I'll go to places and they'll be like, oh, Chaplain Tom, we love him so much. Just places like the YMCA or just the grocery store, just strange places where it's just like, it's been cool to see, how, my parents just moved here like 4 years ago and how much how they've grown that as to be a part of the community.
Yeah.
That's important. And that's the stuff that my parents did teach me. And there's some conservative values in those ideas too, like the beauty of community, and it's shared with all. Yeah, but I think we forget about that really a lot of politics and a lot of ideas do start at that locality, and and helping our people.
Well, yeah, and back to the very beginning of our conversation, one of the things to me that really stood out during that 4 days of freezing, no power, exploding pipes time, or 5 days or whatever it was the amount of help. And it was easy to help. Even, I live in an apartment complex and the lady next door had a Coleman stove and was like, you want me to make you some tea? And I was like, yeah,
Yeah. I had people offering to come out here. Can we bring you food? Can we help? And I was so appreciative. But it was funny though. At the same time, I was also telling people like, I totally appreciate it, but I'm kind of enjoying the roughing it. Like we had just enough, to be okay.
Yeah.
Like grilling like pizzas outside. I got to some. I got this frozen pizza. I'm going to grill this pizza. And it was I just kind of enjoyed the challenge there for a few days. It was exhausting, but no, I mean, there's a cool community like that. And the more that I think we can help that and be a part of that. And I think I'm saying that I need to do more. My dad's been inspiring in that regard. Uh, it's just that simple, just um, being realizing again, and part of these bigger conversations, realizing how much more we have in common than what we have in difference.
Right.
Like, all people generally enjoy a friendly conversation or a gesture of kindness, a door opened. Just simple things are just so human, and it's like, I don't know. I'd love to I think some of that maybe some of the repair of the country could happen at a community level.
Well, that's where,
really,
yeah. What is the think globally, act locally? Because that spreads.
Yeah, and how do we think of that as less of a catchphrase and more of a real call to action?
Yeah.
I mean, not just like, oh, cool, I went to the farmer's market, or I don't know, just more. Yeah, I don't know yet. And especially it's been a hard time, I think, to figure that out.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I could be more. Oh, I raised some money for the food bank and did this live stream. I mean, I guess doing some, but yeah, I think that it's hard right now. So, and as I get older, that's the thing too. As I get older, I think that's got to be a quality of life as you get older, that you've worked hard, focused on yourself to build some things, and there are a lot more things I'd like to accomplish, and maybe many things that I won't, but to spend less focus on that because I have accomplished some things in that life, and to focus more of attention on the good to help others. I think that's got to be a quality of, personally, for my life. I just want to get into that chapter more. I mean, I'm going to be 40 next year, so I guess you start to get older and think about just what the shape of that stuff is. It's like, I want to make a bunch of records. I want to grow in my own self spiritually, navigating an ever-changing industry and landscape, and doing it with like grace and ease. Sometimes, this business can have a lot of stresses, and I think that a lot of people from the pandemic, as some of the friends that I have been hanging out with, feels like there's this general idea of people not wanting to like jump into things too much and be too like, here we are, I don't know. There just feels like there's a bit of a chillness of like I feel like I sense. So I want to carry that on, and just naturally too as I get older. Do you more chill? And I'm pretty chill fucking dude, but I want growth, man. I know there's more.
Yeah.
I always know there's more. I want it,
Yeah.
So.
Well, on a shallower note, before we end this, is that a White Falcon acoustic 12-string behind you?
It is.
Damn.
Falcon Friday.
That is cool, baby.
Yeah, it is. I put it a lot on. I'll add it on stuff, but it looks even cooler than it sounds, I think, sometimes. But, I got that one, and I got this. I'll show you this real quick. I got this
Sure.
Strat that I had the custom shop make me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did this.
Has like a binding on it.
Yeah, to make it look like the White Falcon. So
That's awesome.
it's got like that flake binding, the gold hardware, the white stock and stuff. So I had to make the Strat, but I love those White Falcons, man. I've always been like a big guy. Like, it's like I'm 6'3".
Yeah.
20. So even when I was 16, I just felt like a weirdo holding like a Telly or an SG.
Right.
That guy could like swallow his guitar, So at 16, I got into like, just playing like semi-hollow and hollow body stuff, like, just bigger, like Gibson.
Yeah.
And then we got into the Gretches, and and it helps because they're part of Fender, so it's nice to have that. So yeah, they help me get some guitars. So
That's great, man. Yeah. Well, man, it has been really great talking to you. I'll talk about the record and how people can find it and everything in the intro and the outro, but it's been really nice meeting you. I hope we can meet in person someday.
Yeah, Johnny, I'd love that. Do we have a contact info?
Yeah, I can give it to you after we sign off here.
Do that.
Well, thanks so much for doing the show.
Have me, Johnny. Take care, and
You too.
Burning now.
Great conversation with such a great artist. That is Israel Nash. You can find him at israelnash.com. Pick up his brand new album, Topaz. And I do also recommend that Across the Water Live in Europe record is absolutely fantastic. The song you're hearing is Divided Lines. Great song. We talked about it some in there. You'll hear the rest of it after I stop yapping. But great conversation with Israel Nash. I'm looking forward to seeing him live, meeting him in person. Great dude, amazing artist. Find him at israelnash.com and pick up his new album, Topaz. Hey, gang, also, while you're out there checking out israelnash.com, don't forget that you can subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you find podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Overcast, Stitcher, all the places. New shows every Tuesday and every Friday. I'm bringing back the From the Vault series. I'm bringing it back, people. Let's get into it. All right, let's hear the rest of this song, Divided Lines, from the album Topaz by my guest today, Israel Nash. You guys have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing. Get vaccinated. Get out. See some people. Go see some music. Come see me on Friday, June 25th with the Belle Sounds at 310 ACL Live. Have a great weekend. Let's get down.
Inside their old ways, don't you know it's driving me crazy? Dividing lines, they just come between us, baby. Love runs out every time. It's right.